the Public News Service Daily Newscast, November the 13th, 2020. I'm Mike Clifford. An independent think tank has released a list of 10 actions it says the incoming Biden administration could take to support equal rights and protections for the LGBTQ community.
From the ban on transgender people serving in the military to administration support for religious exemptions to anti-discrimination laws, many LGBTQ Americans feel they've been under attack for the past 4 years. But according to Naomi Goldberg with the Movement Advancement Project, or MAP, President-elect Joe Biden can begin restoring protections immediately after he takes office.
We could see action at the agency level for housing and healthcare and education and the Department of Labor to make sure that legal protections for LGBTQ people are in place and that the federal government will enforce them.
MAP also has a list of legislative priorities, beginning with an update to civil rights laws that prohibit discrimination based on a person's sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity. I'm Andrea Sears reporting.
The group's complete list of administrative and legislative priorities is online. You'll find it at lgbtmap.org. Some Missouri policy experts say federal COVID-19 relief money should be allocated to help struggling families in places like Missouri and spur local economies.
The current supplemental appropriations bill under consideration at the Missouri State House would use federal COVID relief funds to replenish the state's unemployment trust fund. It would happen at the same time the state decreased the unemployment tax assessment for businesses. Tracy Gleason with the Missouri Budget Project contends a stimulus payment would put the money to better use.
These funds weren't intended to allow there to actually just be lower business assessments. We can get a better bang for our buck in terms of local economic activity.
Current proposals would allocate COVID relief funding to the Department of Public Safety, as well as for COVID mitigation, school nutrition, and other costs related to the pandemic. Gleason suggests lawmakers provide a $1,000 stimulus payment to anyone who has exhausted unemployment benefits and sending what's left over to the trust fund. Mary Sherman reporting.
Gleason adds many people who have been able to return to work are likely earning less than they did before. CNN reporting now that 2 senior Department of Homeland Security officials have been forced to resign by the White House, according to sources familiar with the resignations. Among them, a top official in the DHS cyber arm. Brian Ware served as the Assistant Director for Cybersecurity. CNN adds that the DHS Assistant Secretary for International Affairs, Valerie Boyd, also resigned amid pressure from the White House. DHS and the White House declined to comment. Official results from the Nevada presidential race are on the way, amid unfounded allegations of voter fraud in lawsuits by the Trump campaign. We get more from Lily Bolke.
The deadline has passed for absentee ballots to arrive if postmarked by Election Day, and so has the deadline to cure ballots or fix any mistakes. After counties assess and tally the last provisional ballots, the Secretary of State will complete the vote canvass on Monday, certifying the results before Nevada's 6 electoral votes are cast for President-elect Joe Biden on December 14th. State Attorney General Aaron Ford says all evidence points to this year's elections being free, fair, and secure.
Now, there's been no evidence of widespread fraud or any wrongdoing, and no PR stunt or piled-on litigation from the Trump administration is going to change that fact.
In addition to the fraud claims, Trump campaign lawsuits have alleged that GOP observers were being kept out of the counting rooms. However, Ford noted observers from both parties have been welcome until the maximum capacity was reached and there are too many people to properly social distance.
Some of the accommodations made because of COVID-19 may continue to be useful even beyond the pandemic. Illinois lawmakers have the chance to ensure that poverty is never the reason a person stays in jail. It's called the PreTrial Fairness Act. It's been introduced in both chambers and would reform the state's pretrial justice system and end the use of money bond. Chicago area State Senator Robert Pieners sponsored the bill.
Every community in Illinois is impacted by a system that says that if you're poor, but especially if you're poor and black, and especially if you're poor and black and a woman, that you are going to have a caste or a tiered system of safety.
Some in law enforcement have raised concerns about the legislation, arguing cash bail helps fund the criminal justice system and that it is an incentive to ensure people charged with crimes appear in court. Finally, our Diane Bernard tells us conservation groups are applauding a federal court ruling. It blocks permit approval to construct the Mountain Valley Pipeline.
Some groups had sued the pipeline's backers, saying investors were told of the need to steamroll through critical streams as quickly as possible before anything is challenged. At the West Virginia Highlands Conservancy, one of the groups that sued, Cindy Rank says pipeline operators were trying to move ahead with construction without having federal agencies consider endangered species and their habitat.
The philosophy is frequently do it first and get permits later. Apologize later.
The Mountain Valley Pipeline is one of several energy projects backed by the Trump administration that has run into delays with court challenges by environmental groups. This is Mike Clifford for Public News Service, member and listener supported, heard on great radio stations across the nation and now viewed on Free Speech TV.